What's your favorite scary movie?
We back on? Alright, we back on. Yo, what's up everyone? How y'all doing? It's your boy Walterdoom back for another episode of Let's Talk About Horror, where we discuss any and everything that is related to the genre. Yeah, we're back now, and yeah, I know I've been gone for a while. At least for those that listen to me and actually been missing my voice. You know, I know y'all can't get enough of this voice, but I'm not gonna mess around too much. We have a lot of topics to talk about. This is a very topic heavy episode. I don't know what I was thinking. We're not gonna have much news today. But some of the topics we're gonna be talking about is I know you guys been waiting for that ranking for the Treehouse episode on the Into the Dark series. So I'm going to be ranking that. I'm also going to be talking about Gaspar Noé's climax. Pause on that one. Yeah, I just recently watched that movie. And I'm going to be talking about my feelings towards that movie and just my thoughts about Gaspar Noé himself and his films. I'm also going to be talking about Us, because that should be coming out pretty soon. Yep. But other than that, I mean, we're gonna get started right now. We're gonna talk about first about the new Gypsy Rose Blanchard anthology TV series that is on Hulu. I guess it's gonna be a very Hulu heavy show today, and we're gonna be talking about the show The Act. Now, before I get started, when I heard about this story, I was kind of interested in it. I saw a trailer for it on YouTube, and I kind of got a little interested about the story. I also read an article on Bloody Disgusting, which is where I get most of my information from. I mean, it's very interesting news company, I guess, if you could call them a news company, because they talk about very different things and they do different things. But yeah, I read an article and they were talking about this, and what I learned from this was that this story was based on a real event. Now, what's going to happen is, while I'm talking about the Gypsy Rose story on Hulu, I'm going to talk about as if I don't know what happens. That's the kind of route we're going to be taking. What do you think about that, Chucky?
What are you, fucking nuts?
Hey, I'm just saying, there's some people out there that don't really know about the Gypsy Rose situation. I myself didn't know about it. I mean, I've heard of it before. I feel like it because the story did happen in around 2015, 2016. I'm not sure when she got arraigned and when she got put into prison, but yeah, I feel like I've heard the story before around that time when it first came out, but I just forgot about it. It's just one of those things that you kind of forget if you weren't really paying attention to it. But I seen the videos on YouTube and it really made me remember, like, oh shit, that is the chick that had that thing happen to her. Yeah. So, as we are going to talk about the story itself And, well, not the story itself, but more like the episodes, because I didn't even know this was going to be a TV series. Am I the only one that thought this was going to be that it was going to be a movie? I thought it was going to be a movie. When it finally came out and I was looking for it on Hulu on Thursday night. No, not Thursday night, Wednesday night. Or was it Tuesday? When did this shit come out? Oh, it came out Wednesday, but I believe I did. Yeah, I did look for it on Tuesday. Okay, yeah. I remember now. I was looking for it on Tuesday night. So I was like, all right, let me see if I can find the show, blah, 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 this and other. So I ended up finding it, but I didn't even know it was going to be a TV show. I thought it was going to be a movie. So I'm looking at the shit and I'm just like, wait a minute, am I looking at the right thing? So I'm looking through the webs and everything, the interwebs, just to see if I'm looking at the right show, to be honest. So at the end, I end up finding out that it's a TV show. Stupid me, right? What I end up finding out is that there's going to be multiple episodes coming out each week, coming out every Wednesday, basically. So this should be very interesting. Streaming show that have you wait on the next episode. I know there are shows out there that are like that, but me personally, I have never actually watched a show on stream that actually dealt with you having to wait the next week for the next episode to show up. I don't know what I was trying to say right there. Like, but yeah, I never dealt with like a show where they have you waiting for the next episode. It was weird to me. But I watched the show. I watched the first 2 episodes. It's very interesting, by the way. And like I said, we are going to talk about the show as if we don't know what's going on for those that are unfamiliar with the story. All right. So basically in episode 1, we're pretty much introduced to the characters. Well, actually, first off, let's go over the premise of the show. So the premise of the show is based on a real life event dealing with the real characters of Gypsy Rose Blanchard and her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard. What we learn is that Gypsy is in a situation with her mom. Well, not a situation, but more like Gypsy is a child of many disabilities. Her mother claims she has leukemia, muscle dystrophy, asthma, she's crippled, and she has a mental capacity of a 7-year-old. And that's just to name the very few that was actually listed on the, I don't want to say outline of the show, but what's the word I'm looking for? It's on the tip of my tongue too. Well, basically, based on many articles reading about like Gypsy Rose Blanchard, yeah, she has multiple diseases. So in the show, we learn that, well, we're introduced to the mother actually being found dead, and her daughter Gypsy is missing. We don't know what has happened. We don't know who actually killed Dee Dee. We don't even know where Gypsy is at or where she could possibly be. Now, the story takes place in 2015, where we start off where the murder is discovered, which is 2015, by the way. I know I kind of said that twice, but just to reiterate a point that when her body was discovered, it was 2015. So we're taken further back in a further flashback to 2009, where we are introduced to Dee Dee and Gypsy as they are moving into a new neighborhood, and they are meeting their new neighbor. Well, they don't really meet their new neighbors, but they pretty much move to the neighborhood, and their new neighbors meet them. At a certain point, they do meet the new neighbors, Gypsy. Well, not Gypsy, but... Well, actually, no, let me take that back. Yeah, Gypsy and the mother, they do meet the new neighbors. They do learn about all of Gypsy's disorders, might I add. And we also learn that Gypsy is apparently allergic to sugar. Now, I'm not going to give you guys a play-by-play of the show. I'm just going to talk about some points that are going to be important about my thoughts that I'm going to bring up later on. So what we learn is Gypsy supposedly has all these disorders. She has all these allergies that's going on with her. When we're in one of the scenes, we're in a mall, and we see, well, actually, I think I'm jumping ahead a little bit. Let me rewind back. When they meet the neighbors, they meet the two interesting characters, actually, which are going to be prominent characters in the show, I believe, which is Mel, who is played by Chloe Savini, and Lacey, who is played by Anna Sophia Robb. Now, Mel is kind of like a very tough cookie. She's a very tough cookie. And she's very strong because she's a single parent. Lacey, you could kind of tell the character is more free willing. She's all happy and free. And kind of polar opposite of her mom, but at the same time, she understands where her mom is coming from. Where we have Dee Dee, who is played by Patricia Arquette, by the way, who is a little more controlling. By the way, let me say this. It's interesting watching the show in a way because it kind of reminds me of Carrie. I don't know if anyone else gets that same feeling, but that's how I feel when I see Patricia Arquette's character and Joey King's character as they're interacting with each other. It feels like as if you're seeing the behind the scenes look before Carrie went batshit crazy on her mom. You get me? But anyway, continuing. So yeah, Mel is kind of hard on Dee Dee at first and kind of is kind of weary about her. And what ends up happening is that Mel ends up seeing Dee Dee at the mall, but they're not crossing paths with each other. It just so happens that Dee Dee was at the mall with Gypsy, and they were at a necklace rack, and Dee Dee was stealing from the necklace rack. Now, passing by on the upper levels of the mall, because it's a 2-story mall, was Mel, and Mel saw the whole thing happening. that kind of created a rift a bit in their relationship with the two mothers. So what ends up happening is that Dee Dee throws a party, and she kind of is trying to get on Mel's good side, but Mel is still reluctant to be on her good side. Gypsy, who is being claimed that she is still allergic to sugar, becomes curious about trying these cupcakes that she sees that's at the party. So she tries some. Her mother catches her trying it, and she rushes her to the emergency room. Now, this is very important because this is something we kind of learn. Oh, and definitely very big spoiler for those that probably didn't watch it. But what ends up happening is that, I mean, we don't get it at first, but we end up hearing like Gypsy isn't even allergic to sugar, because at the end, and actually here's the biggest thing that happens, because, you know, the girl is in a wheelchair. She's being told that she has muscular dystrophy and all these other types of ailments that's troubling her. What we end up seeing at the end of episode 1 is that she ends up walking on her own, walking perfectly fine at that. So she journeys to the kitchen and she ends up trying some whipped cream while keeping an EpiPen handy. Now, before we get to the end, the mothers end up patching it up and kind of becoming cool with each other. And it kind of lasts for a brief, well, I wouldn't say it lasts for a brief moment, but they do kind of patch things up and she ends up being on her side. That will be the end of episode 1. Now, moving on to episode 2, which I'm not going to try and linger too much on, because I have a lot of thoughts about this show, about at least the first 2 episodes. All right, so in the second episode, which is called Teeth, pretty much in this episode, a doctor is trying to actually intervene in the whole mother-daughter scam. Well, actually, that's how it seems like right now, considering that Gypsy is walking on her own. But obviously, we know it's kind of a scam because of that. So, in this story, there's a doctor because Gypsy's teeth started becoming crooked because she started sneaking around eating sugar behind her mother's back. After learning that she wasn't allergic, the mother is taking her to the hospital to get her checked out to see if she has any allergic reactions or anything happening. You know, just to kind of like get a hold of what's going on, because Gypsy's teeth were crooked and everything Gypsy was eating before then, she was taking it through a tube. She wasn't actually eating her food. She was actually taking her food through a tube. So to see that her teeth was crooked, it kind of sparked a little shock for the mother. All right, so they go visit a doctor, and this doctor, she actually was concerned about Gypsy and all her medical history and ailments. So she did a bit of digging, and she got in contact with a lot of doctors that were listed under Dee Dee's, I guess, provider or what have you. Well, yeah, her provider. So she did a lot of digging, and got in contact with a lot of doctors and learned about a few things about Gypsy and her mother. And what she did was call Child Protective Service to kind of investigate because the doctor was concerned. Meanwhile, while all this is happening, Gypsy gets her teeth pulled out. So she's pretty much bamboozled into the dental office. Well, she's not really bamboozled. Her mother pretty much tells her where she's going because she has the control. But pretty much her mother takes her to the dental hospital. And what ends up happening is that the doctors end up pulling out all her teeth. Now, mind you, at that moment, I mean, I kind of felt the girl's pain at that point. I mean, who else would be highly disturbed about that? I mean, that shit is very disturbing to get your teeth pulled out. But anyway, girl gets her teeth pulled out, and what ends up happening after that is the mother gives her a new fresh set of dentures right before they end up going to this award ceremony that they got nominated for, that we see in the episode. And right before they go out, the mother gives Gypsy her teeth. Now, it's probably been like a couple of days and Gypsy's been like depressed because she didn't have any teeth. So the mother actually gave her the teeth right before they went out to see a full audience. Crazy, right? I'm pretty sure she had the teeth with her the whole time. But who knows? But moving on, we get back to Gypsy being in the hospital. She sees the doctor who was trying to help her. She actually has a can of soda and tries to coax Gypsy into drinking it. Unfortunately, Gypsy doesn't drink it because her mother walks in. And yeah, right before the episode ends, Lacey, who's talking to the two detectives. Oh my God, how am I not able to say detectives? Today is just not a good day for speaking, huh? Man. She speaks to the two detectives. Tongue twisters, you guys. Oh man. About Gypsy actually having a secret Facebook, and she's been talking to men on there. And that was the end of episode 2. You with me so far, Chucky?
Don't fuck with the Chuck.
What about you, Jigsaw?
I want to play a game.
Yeah, I want to play a game too. It's called How Fucked Up Is This Mom? Man. I mean, you have to be a fool to already not believe like the mom is up to some fucked up shit. I mean, and to kind of like not spoil too much, like I said, we're going to talk about as if we don't know about the real, well, like we don't know about the real story, even though it's based on the true story. We're going to talk as if we don't know about the story at all. But yeah, just to hear like how the mom puts all these illnesses onto Gypsy, and Gypsy is annoying. She's just a child. It's messed up. It's real messed up. I mean, it's like, what is the true goal of accomplishment for all this? Control? Stagnation? Or should I say mental stagnation? Growth? Reduction of growth, maybe? I mean, you can't keep the child a baby forever. I mean, obviously, she's not a baby because she was walking. She literally walked. I mean, and that's another question. How long did Gypsy know that she could walk? I mean, we see that she's kind of like testing out theories about like what she's allergic to, what she can eat, what she cannot eat. But it begs the question of like, how long has she known? And it begs another question of why is she still going along with it? Is she in on what her mom is doing? Is she part of the scam? Because right now, to me, it just all looks like a scam to me. Just to see that her mom inputs all this information about her having all these illnesses, and she gets an award for, taking care of her daughter. And I guess it's like kind of like a Make-A-Wish Foundation type shit, and they get like this big ass check. I don't know, Chief. That is something I wonder also. Like how much does Gypsy really know? Now, the real Gypsy Rose Blanchard is 26 years old. And I had to do a lot of calculations to figure out how old is she in the story. So in the story, she's about 16 years old when all of this is going on. While all this is going on, the 2009 stuff that's happening. So, to me, I just noticed like, and it kind of brings me back to Abducted to Plain Sight. How Jan was abducted twice by the pedophile dude, Mr. Bob Birchtold. Man, that guy is disgusting, man. I mean, if you guys listen to the last podcast, I mean, yeah, you guys know how slimy, disgusting this fucker was. This motherfucker. I mean, him. I mean, well, he's dead now. So, but man, only if they caught him. Only if they caught him when they should have. Dude's worse than R. Kelly, bro. And that's a hell of a statement to make. Oh man. Speaking of R. Kelly, have y'all seen these damn memes of him? Too hilarious. I'm just saying. I mean, I seen one where like he had it was like a Uno game R. Kelly was playing. It was like when someone pulls out a draw four and they got him yelling and screaming like how he was in that Gayle King interview. And he was just like, I'm tired of this shit, man. Y'all quit playing with me. This is my life. This is more than music. I just thought that was really hilarious when they actually played that shit. That was real funny. I mean, it's nothing funny what's going on with R. Kelly because it's real fucked up, by the way. I mean, yeah, he's disgusting in every way, but man, the man is like probably taking a major hit on his like bank account from everything, but actually it's probably not, because the last time I remember hearing This motherfucker was still banking off of his songs. It seems like the more and more people hear about this motherfucker, the more they want to go and listen to all his music again. Ironic, right?
What are you, fucking nuts?
I know, Chucky, I know. But anyway, back to the act. Yeah, it just makes me wonder, how much did she really know? How much stake did she have in what her mom was talking about? Maybe she just didn't know, because all she knows is what her mom tells her. She was being homeschooled by her mom, which we do learn in the story. And it's like, man, it kind of reminds me of The Waterboy. Also, like how Bobby Boucher was getting educated by his mother. And then when he became that college football star and what have you, he actually goes to regular school and he gets embarrassed by the teacher because everything he talks about, well, what Colonel Sanders makes fun of him about is that his mom was wrong on every level of everything that she taught him. Yeah. Colonel Sanders got fucked up at the end. Oh, man. Fuck Colonel Sanders. Oh, man. I don't know how many of you guys like KFC, man. I hate KFC. KFC is so nasty. It's not like Popeyes. Popeyes chicken it's bearable chicken. I mean, there's not too many places that have really good chicken, by the way. I mean, chicken sandwiches, yeah, they're cool, but the worst fucking place to get chicken, in my opinion, is KFC, bro. And that's the sad part. It's in their fucking name. I'm like, how you guys fuck up your own merchandise? I don't know. I just feel like, I mean, I liked it as a kid, but I mean, when you're a kid, you like all types of nasty ass shit. Then you find out the real horror story about what happens to these animals and shits and fucking farms and all that. Now, before you guys turn me off talking about like I'm some tree hugger or whatever, I'm really not. I'm just saying. Animals get the worst fucking treatment in some of these farms and shit, man. We don't know what's happening to these farms. Well, in these farms. Just like how we don't know what's going on with what's in our food and all that, man. But that's another subject. This is not the podcast for that. But I mean, for me personally, I can't fuck with KFC. KFC is nasty. Oh, man. Now, the best chicken in the world, El Pollo Loco. Oh, man. Let me shut up about that shit. But, yeah, going back, I mean, yeah, how much did they really have, did she really have in stake with her mom? But then it also made me think about how much lies did these people that lived in their neighborhood really believe from Dee Dee? I'm sorry. Here's one thing that really caught my attention to where I'm just like, the fuck? Shouldn't she not be able to do that? Was when the mother said Gypsy had muscular dystrophy. Now, for those that don't know, I mean, muscular dystrophy is a muscle weakness disease. And I don't know how the disease works too much. I mean, I didn't research it enough. I just know what it is. But to me, I would think like if you have muscular dystrophy and you're in a wheelchair, I would have thought like you need like a electronic wheelchair. What I saw in this show, Gypsy was able to push herself. Now, to me, I'm thinking to myself, like, if she has muscular dystrophy, and maybe I'm just thinking wrong because I don't know how that shit works, I would have thought, like, maybe she couldn't move herself. That would be a task for her. But she was moving herself just fine. That shit is crazy. So it made me really wonder, like, how much of the lies did these people actually believe? It's just as bad as the lies that she actually spread to her own daughter, you know? Her daughter is sitting there believing her lies and doesn't even know that she's being lied to until she has to discover it for herself. It's tragic, man. It's tragic, but the mother is murdered. We don't know who did it. Well, I know who did it, but we don't know who did it. Apparently there's going to be 6 more episodes that are going to be, I guess the word is, uploaded to Hulu. Because it's definitely not an airing. But yeah, there should be another upload next week. So I'm excited. I can't wait. I mean, I'm already into the show. I kind of know about the story already, like I said. If you guys don't know about the story, definitely Google the story. Watch some videos on YouTube. Do whatever you can to learn about the story, because watching the story and actually learning about the real story behind what happened, it really will bring you at all a bit, and it will definitely make you feel a little sympathy at that for Gypsy, actually, because she's more of a victim that had no escape out of this. None. And no matter where she turned, it was just one fucked up situation after the other. But definitely check it out. We're going to take a quick break for a moment. And when we come back, we're going to talk about, this will be the news segment, but I guess we're going to be talking about some news, which is Gasper Knows not love. Oh my God. I almost said Gasper Knows love. But Gasper Knows climax, and I guess give you guys my thoughts about Us. So, yeah, see you soon.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh, like I said, I saw Gasper Knows climax the other day. And it was a very interesting movie. I mean, I like watching Gasper Knows movies. The only movies I've seen by him, I know he has like quite a few, but the only movies I've seen by him were Love, Irreversible, and Enter the Void. And actually the order I saw them in, because actually the order that they came out were, I believe Enter the Void came out first, and then it was Irreversible, and then Love. But I seen Love, Enter the Void, and Irreversible in that order, pretty much. And the one thing you could count on about Gasper Noé's movies is a very visceral and really engaging movie as far as like dialogue, sexuality, and drugs. Now the thing is, what kind of drew me to see Climax was mainly from the Blade discussing article that I saw where they were talking about Gaspar Noé and his work in his movies and how they kind of have an undertone of horror and an element to it being horror related. Where in Irreversible, we're treated to a very dark underworld of pretty much the gay bar scene and kind of like the violence, not really the violence behind it, but just like the violence against it. On top of that, you know, we're also treated to the fact of the seedy underground of human trafficking, where we're also where we're also witness to a very extended rape scene that is very cringeworthy. In Enter the Void, we're treated to the thoughts of death and the questions of what does become of us after we die. And what we kind of see in this movie is the nature of man and its barbarianism. Or barbarianism. I said it right the first time. I've been getting tongue-tied so much, people. I'm learning. I'm getting better. Oh, man. When I was watching this movie, it made me think, what makes this movie the official coming out of Gaspar Noé calling his movie a horror. And let me tell you guys, it's a few things that happen in this movie that kind of makes you think about, like, damn, this is some fucked up shit. Now, there's no jump scares or anything like that happens. There's no crazy, gory people getting cut up. No. It's more cerebral than that. And that's what Gaspar Noé tried to go for. It's kind of like when I seen Lars von Trier's movie of Antichrist. That also kind of evoked a bit of discomfort. Now, a lot of people may say, like, if you're just a casual watcher, you might want to discount these movies as not being horrors. But the thing is that they are horrors. Because why? Well, let's look at the definition of a horror. Now, when I was writing this, I was like, okay, what makes his movie a horror? What is the definition? And the definition that Google gave me is an intense feeling of fear, shock, or disgust. Now let's keep those words in mind because they do play out later on in this soliloquy that I'm making. Gaspar Noé in his movies really try to elicit a lot of those factors and a lot of those meaning without giving you a creature like Freddy Krueger terrorizing somebody in their dream, or Jason slicing somebody open on the streets. No. He evokes these emotions through the animalistic nature of man, i.e., the rape scene of Alex in Irreversible, which we are treated to a long shot of the scene, where we are definitely an unwilling participant watching this act take place. The thing with like climax, I feel like it takes all those factors from each movie, from Irreversible, from Enter the Void, from Love, and it really kind of compacts everything into one nightmarish event. What do I mean by that? Well, in the premise of this movie, it's a movie about these dancers who are coming from a dance rehearsal. Their dance instructor, Selva, and their DJ, which they call him DJ Daddy. I don't know why the fuck they call this dude DJ Daddy. That kind of sounds weird for a moment. If we could take a moment away from this. It's weird when they kept calling this dude Daddy. I was like, why are they calling this motherfucker Daddy? You will not catch me calling this motherfucker Daddy. It comes off sus. Like, hey Daddy, what's up? I'm just saying, I for one am weirded out by that name. Like, dog, I would have to tell bro he have to get a new name. Oh man. But anyway, back to the premise. The premise of the movie is after their dance rehearsal, they're at an after party where they are drinking sangria. And what happens is that they find out that the sangria is actually spiked with LSD. Now, before we go into anything further with this movie, I mean, Gaspar Noé's movies tend to be dialogue heavy and tend to focus more on the story. In this movie, what I come to find out is that even though Gaspar Noé had a direction and he gave his actors a premise, he actually had them improvise everything throughout the movie. He actually let the characters take whatever direction they wanted to take with the movie, and they just went along with it. Now, I gotta say, that's impressive. That's impressive work right there. Especially when you get like a lot of dancing going on, might I add. I mean, and they incorporate a lot of dance moves and different kind of styles and what have you. But just to hear, like, because when I'm watching it, I didn't know they were improvising these lines. I mean, I might have to watch it again because maybe there was some inconsistencies. Oh, man. But in the story, after the characters learn about them being spiked, all hell pretty much breaks loose. So, first thing we want to think about, like I said, they're shock, disgust, and fear. And the first horror that we see in this movie is pretty much the cruelty of nature in man, which he really highlights real well about the characters and their feelings about one another. So what do I mean by the cruelty of nature? I mean, basically, if we want to speak on a nihilistic point, this is not my words exactly, but some people would say men are inherently evil. And I'm not talking about like men as in a feminist type of way. I'm talking about just men in general, men and women. They are inherently evil. So what we see in this movie is that when the LSD is taking effect on these characters, it's actually brought out of them. You know, we see like their first reaction is when they start going at Emmanuel, who is their manager for the dancers. They go at her thinking that she spiked the sangria with LSD, but she lets them know like, hey, I drank it too. So she protects her son Tito by stuffing him in an electric room who she brought at this party, which I'm like, who brings a kid to a after party where you know it's going to be drinking? That's ridiculous. We also see after they stopped blaming Emmanuel, they went after Omar, the guy that doesn't drink. And he gets tossed out into the cold with nowhere to go. I'm trying to keep this less spoiler heavy for you guys. I mean, there's really not much of a spoiler in this movie because the real nature of this movie, because it's more of an art horror than anything. I don't know if I can make that up. Art horror. But yeah, we'll try and keep this less spoiler alert because I really can't think of what was the big... Well, actually, the spoiler was who actually did spike everyone with LSD. And that should be... I actually kind of figured it was that person at first. It was actually between that person and another person, honestly speaking. But I kind of figured who actually did spike it. But there's also Lou, who everyone else also turned on because Dom, who is this big Amazonian chick, she kind of reminds me of like Grace Jones and shit. But she kind of blamed her, but Lou was pregnant. She was sick because she was pregnant and she didn't even drink anything. But Dom kind of convinced everyone that Lou spiked everyone and they were encouraging her to commit suicide. And she complied. She didn't quite do it, but she did enough to where she did some damage. Another cruelty in nature is actually Taylor also. Who is on a brother and sister team who are trying to be dancers to make it into New York. Yeah, Taylor and Giselle, they're a brother-sister dance team trying to make it to New York. Now, Giselle, she's in a relationship with Omar, and Taylor doesn't like it. But what ends up happening is that after they kick out Omar, David, who is like the, I guess, male slut of the group, because he pretty much fucked almost any and everybody there, he is dancing with Giselle, and David finds out after, I forgot who pointed that shit out to him. But when he found out, he pretty much beat David's ass bad. Bad. And you pretty much see like how savage people become. Now, another thing, since we're talking about David, he is also on the topic of my next subject of the crazy shit you see in these movies by Gaspar Noé and what you will always see from him. But sexuality is always taking a dark undertone in Gaspar Noé's films. Love, for example, which, by the way, wasn't much about love anyway, but more on the sexualization of love. Which I guess this is the best way to put it. You know, in that story for Love, it was dealing with more about the story of how would you feel if an ex that you love, that you are so in love with, just all of a sudden one day died? How would you deal with that? Now, I don't know how many of you people have that kind of person out there, but it does kind of ask the question, what would you do if that person that, even though you're not together with them, but you still have that love for them, what would you do when you suddenly find out that they've passed away? How would you deal with that? Now, in Love, the characters don't really show much love for each other, but it's all mainly sexualized, and it's sexualized in many ways, you know. Sexualized like as in like making love, sexualized into like having sex almost any and everywhere, having sex in a threesome, having sex with a tranny. Might I add, it's not the first time he really added a tranny in his films. He actually added a tranny in Irreversible, which actually heavily focused on the gay underground world and pretty much human trafficking, also, like I mentioned earlier. In this movie, sex is kind of almost taken in many directions depending on the character. It could be taken in a very nightmarish tone for some people, or one of the characters. It could be seen as confusing for some. It could be savage, or it could be fun. I don't remember the two characters' names, but they were just sitting there talking about sex. And one guy just like talked about like all the stuff he would try with the girl. And the other guy that was with him, because they're usually like a tag team duo, always trying to get bitches and all that. He was kind of uncomfortable with hearing what his friend was talking about. But the reason why I said we're going to bring up David still, to bring up like a nightmarish point in this movie, is Taylor tried to have sex with his sister in the movie. And honestly speaking, I wasn't surprised about it. But the thing I was surprised is that they still stuck to the storyline that they were brother and sister. But I thought it was going to be more of a storyline that they weren't brother and sister. And that they were just posing as a brother and sister duo for whatever reason. But they were brother and sister. But what you see there is like one of the savagery of like sex due to effects of the LSD that's taking place. You know, David, his sexual conquest, well, sex is seen as a conquest for him, I should say. And Lou also, with her getting pregnant, she didn't know who the baby daddy was. So, I mean, for her, sex is a nightmare. Definite nightmare. I would talk about Ivana, who was with Sykes. For her, I mean, we already know sexuality for her is like, you know, she loves women. Which is no problem with that because I love women too. Oh, man. But anyway, another thing that's really like prominent with Gaspar Noé's movies, and this is what really charged up this movie to begin with, is the use of drugs. Now, usually in his movies, drugs plays almost an important tool to the characters in any type of way possible, depending on what story it's talking about. So in Enter the Void, drugs is used more as an enlightenment tool, you know, an understanding of death for the characters. I mean, Enter the Void kind of did heavily focus on drug trafficking a lot in that movie. But the story's premise was basically understanding death, what happens in the afterlife. Where in Love, death is almost used recreationally. And I know the main characters, they try ayahuasca, which turned out to be just another form of like sexual relief. Hence why love wasn't really much love at all. Now in Climax, drugs is actually seen as more of a nightmare. And this is where things do get a bit twisted. Because like mentioned before when I was talking about the cruelties of man, drugs is actually the cause of a lot of these characters' savage behaviors. Because they ingested so much LSD is that a lot of them started actually becoming the demon that they are deep down inside. And they were becoming also the person that they are, that they truly are deep down inside. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say the true person, but they were letting those deep down feelings come out. Where Taylor's desire for his sister came out and he tried to have sex with her, but David actually stumbled in on them and tried to stop it. Selva became done with her relationship with David, and instead of going with him to be with him, she slept with Ivana instead. And David, who actually was a sexual conqueror, he actually wanted to be with Selva the whole time and wanted to leave the party with Selva, but she didn't want to leave with him. Dom's hatred for everyone actually came out. Actually, her hatred for, it was more like hatred for Lou. Because I didn't see her actually picking fights with anyone else. And most importantly, I mean, it will be more like the cast and their barbaric nature within themselves. And how truly hateful like a person can be. And how barbaric a person is. You know, when Lou was actually threatening to commit suicide, they just egged her on. They really just egged her on. But to close out the point, to close out my point about this movie, is that through all the unique cinematography, the improvised lines, and I believe it only took a few days for this movie to be filmed, if I can remember. Visually, this movie was stunning. Because we are treated as, while these players are tripping out on not ayahuasca, but on LSD, we're always treated to somebody in a dark background, dancing, very serpent-like, by the way, to insinuate the torment that some of these characters are going through. We are brought through nightmarish visuals of sexual desires that maybe no one has never thought they would act on, violent tendencies that no one thought of committing, actions no one ever thought they would actually take. I mean, at the end of Climax, we are treated to some gut-wrenching moments, actually, once we see the finale of what happens to all these characters. And it's actually very stunning, especially when we learn about who actually had the LSD. It's very stunning to see all these actions taking place. So if you guys actually have time and you guys actually have a chance to see it in theaters, definitely check out Climax. It was definitely a movie I really like watching. I usually like Gaspar Noé's movies. They're stunning in every type way possible. They're usually filmed very uniquely. He went a lot more out with the unique cinematography and the way he was flipping cameras around and everything. So it was definitely good to see like a unique and maybe change of pace of how we view what a horror movie should look like. But anyway, we're about to take another break. When we come back, I'm about to talk about Us for a little bit, and then we're going to talk about Treehouse and where that ranks in the Into the Dark series catalog. All right.
Red rum. Red rum. Red rum. Red rum. Red rum. Red rum.
All right. Well, we're back. And I gotta say, we're in March. We're a couple of days away from Us coming out. Yeah. Or actually, whenever you listen to this, Us is already out. Oh, man. I am the worst at this. But, yeah, I mean, it's really getting rave reviews by South by Southwest, man. They really are loving this. Critics are loving this. I can't wait to see it. I'm excited for it. I'm probably going to check it out sometime later on in the coming weeks. Kind of like when all the hype is like dying down. Or a time where I can actually go see it early enough to where I don't have to worry about a crowd. I tell you, I hate crowds, especially at theaters where you have to pick where you have to sit and all that. That's so trash to me. I remember back then, like, you didn't have to do that shit. Nowadays, I don't know why they do that shit, but you have to pick where you gotta seat. Where you gotta sit. I said seat. Where you gotta sit. I never understood. I mean, I guess it's to kind of ensure that you get the seat that you want. But yeah, I'd rather go at a time where there's not too many people out. Going to the movies, I can sit where the hell I want and be comfortable. But yeah, I'm definitely going to check it out when it comes out. Well, after it comes out. I mean, it'll probably be out after this episode is uploaded. That should give you guys a hint when I'm recording. Actually, you know what? I take that back. It is out right now. Because isn't this the 20? Yeah, oh, yeah, it is out. It is out. Oh, my God. What am I thinking about? But, yeah, I'm definitely going to check it out. And I hope you guys are, too. I'm excited for it. Especially the Twilight Zone series also. I can't wait to watch that. But speaking of, like, web shows and everything, the Into the Dark series, man, they seem like they're going for the goal of like best web series or something, man. Because the movies seem to be getting better. Especially with this latest one, Treehouse. Now, as you guys know, I mean, there's been other episodes out. Now, as you guys know, the Into the Dark series, which is part of Hulu's originals, it's all dealing with holiday-based movies or holiday-themed movies for each month. So, a couple of standouts that I pretty much liked that I graded high. The Body, Puka, Down, which all respectively in order are Halloween, Christmas, and Valentine's Day. The show also has its missteps or disappointments, as in like the Flesh and Blood series, which was the Thanksgiving themed holiday movie, and New Year, New You, which was also a disappointment to me. Now, Treehouse, as the newest movie, I would have to say is probably the most controversial out of all of them. And the only reason why I say controversial is because of the risky storyline. Now, The premise of the story is focused on Peter Rake, which is a famous chef, kind of like Chef Ramsay in a way. He is actually scorched by some controversy that comes out in the news. And what he does is that he escapes to his family home where he meets up with his sister to get away for a while from his problems. While he's out at his old family home, which is the getaway vacation spot, he is then, how should I say, met up, or actually has to relive his demons in a form of women who are knowledgeable about his past. Chucky, what you got to say about that?
What are you, fucking nuts?
Now, I'm not going to make a big joke because this story kind of takes a whole controversial meaning, and it has a much serious tone than most of the other movies. Whereas this movie is focusing mainly on women's equality and the Me Too movement, or as we like to call it, or as like the media likes to call it, because I'm not the media, Me Too horror. It's crazy that it's being considered this. Considering of all the things that encompass in this movie, but it's kind of hard not to think about what is going on in the news today when we're finally confronted with what is Peter being subjected to and being judged for. Now, this story was supposed to be dealing with depths, as in the Ides of March. Kind of like Julius Caesar in a way, right? Beware the Ides of March. If most of you guys don't know what the Ides of March is, it's actually March 15, which is a Roman Catholic holiday where you have to pay your debts to society, or any kind of debts that you have waging against you. You know, in this story, Peter is paying his debts, but he's paying his debts to these women by reliving and tormented by his past actions. Whether it's in the form of them dressing him up as a woman, catcalling and harassing him, or reliving a moment where he sexually harassed a reporter. This story depending on where your stance are with what's going on with the story, well, where your stance on it with the Me Too movement, it does drive up the consensus of forgiveness, which is the main thing, and which is one moment in the story that could kind of, depend on where your stance are with the Me Too movement, could kind of turn a lot of people off. Well, some people off. Here we have Peter, who is pretty much being judged on a lot of things, from rape, sexual harassment, unfair payment. I mean, just everything encompassing that women are fighting against today in this movement. Peter is one of those people, men of power, encompassing all those characteristics. And what happens at the end of it Peter gets redeemed. Even though he feels like a hex was put on him because the women come out and say that they're witches, which they turn out to not be. He gets relieved. Well, he gets redeemed. Not relieved, but redeemed by seeing the error of his ways and kind of getting a second chance. Now, I was reading an article on the Daily Dot, and here's what they had to say about it. All right, you've already probably guessed that the guests aren't quite what or who they appear to be. They're out to teach Peter a socially relevant lesson. This is where Treehouse tries to have it both ways. It wants Peter to pay for his sins, to reckon with how he treats women, but as the action ratchets up and the film nears its logical conclusion, the script swerves down a different path and gives Peter a chance to redeem himself. It subverts audience expectation, which is nice, but it does so in a way that weakens the story. Peter is accused of some ugly things, and it feels the characters in the film itself are letting him off the hook. This is compelling material to explore, but the film's ending leaves you wanting more. And not in a good way. What we're left with is a film that bogs itself down in the third act. The script wants to make a point or multiple points about sexual misconduct, repentance, and revenge. Instead, it feels like Rode and co-writer Todd Harthan are content to offer us a mismatch of equality and empowerment messages and call it a day. It's messy and doesn't come across as sincerely as they probably intended. Now, I thought that was interesting because I felt at the end of the film, I actually thought he kind of gained something that most men kind of don't really gain. And that's understanding. Like true understanding. I mean, in a day and age where we're all ready to tear down and convict someone, i.e. Harvey Weinstein, R. Kelly, even recently Michael Jackson. I mean, recently there's a documentary out about Michael Jackson and his sexual misconduct with young boys. Now, to me, in my honest opinion, I'm like, why is this even existing? The man doesn't live anymore. Are they trying to gain money? I don't know. Are they trying to take down his brand? I mean, who's even responsible for his brand these days? But I felt like the ending of Treehouse, the character really did see like a different side of what he was doing. And he also saw kind of like the error of his ways when it comes to his daughter also. And how he didn't want to see his daughter get the same treatment from a man in power. The thing is with this movie is, and I don't speak for everybody. I mean, this is just my thoughts about the movie, but can repentance be enough? Can one man be redeemed from all the awful mistakes that he's created? And honestly speaking, I don't have the answers to that one. That is definitely a person to person stance. Which is why I could see why this movie could actually be as controversial as it is. But yeah, other than that, I mean, where this movie stands in ranking with all the other films, at the end, I rated it a high 4. So right now, I believe it is 3rd on my list. Yeah, it's 3rd on my list. So The Body is still 1st. Puka comes in 2nd. Treehouse is 3rd. Down is 4th. New Year, New You is 5th. And Flesh and Blood is 6th. All right. Well, now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and get to the end of the show.
Wendy, darling, light of my life, I'm not gonna hurt you. You didn't let me finish my sentence. I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in. I'm gonna bash them right the fuck in.
All right, you guys. So we're now at the outro of this show. I promise I won't take as long as I did this time around. I mean, man, it's getting ridiculous. Even I'm telling myself it's ridiculous. But anyway, must watch movie. I was gonna talk about this movie last month. It was probably gonna be one of my topics of conversation, but either way, just check it out because it's a dope film. It's called Horror Noir. It's actually a documentary focused on black people and their participation in horror movies. And they start by looking back on the old films like Birth of a Nation, and actually focus on like different films where black people are being used or villainized in lots of film, to films where now black people are actually seen as the heroes in a film. And it's a real interesting movie to watch. I mean, it definitely gave me a sense of inspiration looking at that film. But yeah, definitely check it out. It's on Shudder. If anybody has Shudder, definitely check that out. I actually picked up a Shudder account not too long ago. I'm close to thinking about switching it though, like, because I have it for my iPhone, but you know, I watch a lot of stuff on my television and I don't have Apple TV or any of that bullshit. So, you know, I like watching my movies on television. I like watching it on a screen, on a real screen. Watching it on the phone is cool and all, but it doesn't give you that same screen feeling. So I might end up probably changing my Shudder account, I don't know, to whatever is compatible to my TV or whatever. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe to my Prime. I don't know. We'll see. And also, the meme of the week. It's a meme that I saw of Jason and Freddy just recently. And it's a funny one. It has Jason and Freddy hugged up on each other. And it says, "It's okay, bro. They'll run out of meth soon." Oh man, it's too funny. But anyway, that's it for today. If you guys like today's show, make sure you give it a like, subscribe, whatever you want to do. Comment if you have a comment on anything. Other than that, I mean, yeah, the social is on the screen. That's pretty much it for today. This is Walterdoom signing out for another episode of Let's Talk About Horror. This is America. Don't let them catch you slipping now. And none of y'all try and ruin us for me. Otherwise, that's a fade. But other than that, peace.